Alright, so my previous video got interrupted randomly. Because I realized that this phone was A, running out of storage because I had two big long videos on here, and two, um, yeah, it's been like this is technically my fourth attempt to record the second half of this video. By the way, I just gonna throw that out there. This video does not want to be recorded every time I try to explain things. So here we are, take 4. I'm going to move this back a little bit so you can see the top of my head, but not that much. You can see the rest of my part. There we go. Anyway, so in the last part, I got cut off in the middle of my explaining of the timelines. I explained all 5 timelines, the main ones. There's going to be other small branches and stuff that kind of slightly connect, but will just be there for like randomness or just in case there's contradictions in certain things. But yeah. Doing the timeline thing because, one, I have like so many stories I want to tell with these characters that it's like really hard to narrow down what type of story I want to do. And like if I go one route, it kind of blocks off the other routes I want to do. So that's kind of why I'm doing the multiple timeline things. Is I could try to figure out a way to get all the stuff connected into one thing, but I feel like they get blocked off. Like if the DV fighting force gets formed too quickly, then like probably more school stuff gets destroyed. Like anything, like any school stories. And I have Strixhaven for a school story. But the DV fighting force gets formed too soon, or they get that. But then also at the same time, then there's also like no like school stuff. Like, there's just like no. There's a lot of issues with that. If I split it up like I am, I at least have certain things. Also, like a zombie invasion. If I want to have a zombie invasion story, if the zombies get too bad, then what am I going to do? I can't unzombie the world. Unless I do some weird bullshit, which I could do weird bullshit. But having a timeline where it's just everything is screwed could make sense. And then maybe they step into a timeline where things can actually be fixed and preventative, so like an alternate timeline of that, maybe if I want to go with some weird bullshit to fix that timeline. But that's like a branch off that one timeline. So I might have to do weird bullshit anyway. Timelines are gonna have to be a factor anyway. One, because I actually have a story that's actually like I have a book, what is it? Wheel of Fortune, like Fortune's Wheel or something like that. Something like that. There's a book like that over there for 5e. That's about multiple universes, which multiple universes is basically the same thing as multiple timelines. More or less. So, yeah, that's like the whole premise right there is we want to do multiple universes, multiple timelines, stuff like that. These are like the biggest branches of the timelines where things go drastically different. Anyway, I wanted to bring up that in the Magic timeline, I was going to use Breath of Fire 1. I don't know it as well as some of the other ones, and same with Breath of Fire 4, but that's going to be for the Fallout timeline. I want to bring those up because in the last video I was saying what Breath of Fire went with which timelines. So I finally figured that. So I finally fixed that. I ran out of time in the last one. Apparently can't go over 70 minutes. Also, my phone was full, so I couldn't finish this video. And then I tried to finish this video just a minute ago, and it was like, your phone's still full. It's like, damn it, get out of there. Like, empty out the trash can, damn it. I don't need the stuff restored. If I trash it, it's trash. Delete it. I mean, I get it. There's some things you trash. It's like, oh, I didn't mean to do that. And you get like one chance to not trash it. But like, for the sake of like bigger things, or I don't know, I don't know. Either way, I had to get it off my phone. I'm not putting it on my computer, so I just trashed it. I trashed them. So you get the one take that I uploaded, and yeah. And thankfully, I messed up last part because I thought the video was you were seeing this today, and I was recording this yesterday, according to what you're seeing. But actually, it's the day before that because I'm still waiting for the video from yesterday to upload. So if you see this, it should be the next day after the thing, hopefully. And like I just recorded this kind of like right off top of it. Anyway, back to the actual thing. So we haven't actually got to the part that's actually like the trickiest part of my whole mind. Now, I've tried so many times. I'm almost just about to throw this whole thing out. Ever since I was young, I've been playing video games. Ever since I was like probably 5. I'd say 5. That's the most logical time. I'm not entirely sure. I don't actually have a time frame. But my first actual memory is getting a Game Gear with Sonic, a Spider-Man game, and a Tasmanian Devil game. The Tasmanian Devil game was mid. Like, it was okay. The Spider-Man game was also very mid. I have actually got a hold of these games later in life and have beaten them now. And I still have that idea for that third video where I'm going to like do that whole thing. That might still take a few days. Also, I still need to figure out what to actually do for VODs, or for streams or whatever. Like for content. Like cutting down VODs sound good, but like we're gonna have to actually figure out what I'm gonna actually do for yeah. Anyway, regardless, like for content, like the actual content of the VODs and videos, I need to edit today. Almost forgot about that. So anyway, so the actual thing is I like playing video games. I've played them since I was young. I've been beating them. Like I had a dream when I was young that I wanted to beat every game. I'm playing games for like ever. My favorite genre of game, I think my favorite genre of game is like platformers or beat 'em ups or RPGs. Those are my favorites. Anything else is kind of just like whatever. Hack and slash games are okay as long as they don't try to focus too much on like combos and having to keep a combo going. I prefer just the whole premise of you getting good at the beat 'em up is to like survive longer and beat each stage. I think one of the probably best like concepts for a beat 'em up was like the Turtle game. I actually have a full playthrough of the Turtle game. That's really good for this. The one for the PS2. It was like I think honestly probably one of the best beat 'em ups I've ever played. You had like so many lives per chapter. You had to do like the whole world before you did it. The only thing that's hard is like at the end. It made it really hard to beat it on a rental, and also the final world just sucks. Final Shredder is a pain in the butt. We had to use a cheat code to beat the game on 2-player. It was ridiculous. But we did it. I got through it. And if we went through it 3 more times, we would have found a secret boss. But regardless, off topic entirely. But the whole thing is that would be my ideal beat 'em up. My ideal platformer is probably something that's like more like something similar to Mega Man Zero, but with more like stats and stuff. Like something where I haven't played it, but I think Dragon Mark for Death or something. I think that's what it's called. Probably as close to what I'm looking for as far as platformers go. At least that'd be the ideal I'd want to make. Something where also Kirby. Kirby's a good example, but like for Kirby, you have to. I'd want more like actual stat integrations and more like each character is one of the powers and stuff like that. You know, just crazier stuff. More character based and also more like hardcore difficult, like toward later game, instead of like everything just kind of being like kind of easy. Like Kirby games are like very easy. I know they're for everybody, and that's the point. But imagine a game like Kirby without the copy powers, but all the copy powers are different characters. Basically, kind of like Smash Brawl, Super Smash Brothers Brawl, with the My brain not working today. I apologize. Suspect Emissary mode. That was also a really. That's basically what I'm thinking of for the most part, more or less. As far as like what would make for good, except for like instead of a health that goes up, you'd have like your hit points and it'd go down, and you'd like die. And each character has their own hit points, and you can maybe equip stuff to them. That'd be my ideal platformer that I would like to make. Beat 'em up, same kind of deal. You have like different characters with different move sets. It can either be like a top-down one where like old Maximum Carnage or Double Dragon style, or even if it was like a little bit more free form, like the one I talked about earlier, the Turtle game, or the other, or like maybe even something more fancy like Devil May Cry. Although if I went with Devil May Cry route, I'd probably just go Kingdom Hearts because that's honestly kind of the biggest blend of RPG platformer and beat 'em up ever, and I love it. I love the Kingdom Hearts series. It's like one of my top series. It's not one of my favorite games, but technically, I guess it's kind of why I think the PS2 era is one of my favorite eras. It's because you started getting games like that. You had like games like Devil May Cry, Jack and Dexter was one of my favorite games. I think my two favorite games fall slightly on the opposite, like the other ends of this, where uh, Mystical Goemon's Great Adventure is one of my favorite games. Legend of Mana is one of my favorite games, and Rayman Legends is one of my favorite games. Those are like my actual top favorite games, but there's a lot of like really high quality stuff in the PS2 era. Even the Bouncer was really fun, and I enjoyed the heck out of that. That's kind of got what I want, but I think like maybe being able to freely roam from the stages like Kingdom Hearts, or just being able to kind of, or just like a more like spot for spot part of a beat 'em up and much longer. I don't know. Like you have the ability to make like really long beat 'em ups. Technically, one really good beat 'em up, and this is probably the one I could actually use as a perfect example of what I would like from a beat 'em up, is something like Castle Crashers. Charlie Murder is also a good example of this, but Castle Crashers had to where you beat up people, you gained experience, you gained level, you had equipment that had better, that actually dealt more damage, or other things like do better magic. You had like a magic attack, you had this. Again, I forget if I actually talked about my stats. Like I said, I'll probably talk about them again. But I think I did talk about my stats in the previous part. Like stats and skills have been something that we kind of trying to figure out for a while. I think I might have an idea, but I'll go over all the different ideas I've had for powers, like for the stuff. But I think I did go over stats though, because I remember holding a book to the thing. But I also could have held the book there that one of the videos that didn't go up, and there's no way for me to tell right now unless I actually skim through the video that I already uploaded. It was an hour and 9 minutes. I might have talked about it. You know what? I'm just going to just quickly skim. I'm going to have this on mute. If I bring up a book, then I know I talked about stats. Alright, I talked about D&D books. Yep, okay, I talked about my stats. Alright. Okay. I've had like 4 fails on this video. I don't remember which one I talked about what. But okay. Either way. Sorry about that. That was a little awkward, but I had to double check. My brain had no, because like if I already talked about the stats, I don't have to talk about them again. But anyway, so my biggest thing is that like, anyway, the whole point of the reason I brought up all the games and why I like games and all my types of games and my favorite types of games is to get into the final part of I want to try to combine my love of actually playing through games and give me an excuse to continue to play through games with actually making games. When my channel was about like half halfway through my channel, more or less at this point. It's gonna be more. It's gonna be less as time goes on. But halfway through my channel, when I was with my, at one point I was obviously by my like by myself doing the Legendary Gamer DV. That was kind of one idea. But then with when I was with my ex, I came up with the ideas of like DV Fighting Force and the Freedom Fighters stories. They probably will not be linked, but that's fine. Anyway, with those stories, we were trying to combine a whole bunch of games. And with the Freedom Fighters, it was going to get ridiculous. Like, let's put it this way, because all the videos are deleted. Let's put it this way. After we got done with Dragon's Lab, there was like a whole incident where something happened. We got, like, the heroes got attacked while they were trying to be in town. People got kidnapped, and so we had to go try to rescue them. Like, there was more labs. There was more... Dragon wasn't finished off yet, even though he was supposed to be. But we tried to go and deal with that. And as we did, what ended up happening was that the hero, it went from Portal 2. So after Portal 2, and after this little intermission bit where I was trying to figure out how to wrap the intermission in there, and we had to move the moment we got done uploading Portal 2. So we never actually got to continue after Portal 2. But, like, the games that were planned were stuff like, we had Rayman Origins, where them trying to collect stuff. We had them trying to actually find, like, a permabase, which ended up being TMNT for the PS2, which is a fun game. So we went through, like, a chunk of that and found there's, like, this part where they find this whole underground section that was, like, kind of, like, almost like a lab. And we were like, oh, hey, what if we use this as our permabase? We can start setting this up. And then from there, they had to go out and, like, get supplies, stop Dragon, and collect, like, stuff to gather supplies. It's also led to stuff like DK64, Ratchet and Clank. What other games? Rayman Origins was in there for a bit, along with Legends. Stuff like that. They were all connected in this intermingled story. So, this is why I was trying to bring that back with, like, the Kingdom Hearts thing just semi-recently. I was trying to bring that back with, like, Kingdom Hearts mixed with Bart Simpson, mixed with Dragon Ball Z. You know, I was trying to mix those together because I thought it would work. And honestly, the Simpsons games are kind of the hardest ones to try to fit in anything. And I might have an idea for them later, but the hardest games to try to fit into any kind of plot. They can fit into a plot, but regardless, the ideas are now at this point that there's a lot of thought processes with everything. So what ends up being the case is that I try to combine video games together to make a plot. Now the problem is five. There's 5 problems. One, and that number came off the top of my head. If I don't actually find 5, bit. One, is that do I use the whole games, all of the game? Like with my lab game, I was trying to combine Half-Life, Hybrid Heaven, and Breakdown, and so far, only thing I've used from those games are the first, like, 2 chapters of most of those, except for Breakdown. Breakdown is used in the first level, and that's it. Hybrid Heaven is technically used in parts of the second level and the third level, and I think even parts of the first level technically are some Hybrid Heaven stuff. And then I go from there to a lot of Half-Life stuff, and also a little bit of, like, Metroid Fusion. So I was using that. That's why I was playing those 4 games at the same time for a little bit, but all those games are lost now. I don't know if I'll ever finish them. I don't know if I'll ever continue them. I might. If people want me to. Only if people want me to, though. But because I beat most of those already ahead of time, and also I beat most of those when I was recording them. The footage is just gone. So that was that. That was an RPG and a bunch of smaller games that got combined together. But do I do that? Like, what am I? Like, should I keep it focused on that, where I try to make like so many games? Do I base the games off the numbers, off say the back of the books here? Like it says 1 to 8. Do I just use 8 games? If it says something ridiculous like I don't know, give me a sec. I have an example. That's what I think is the example. Yes. What would I do here? 3 to 12. Do I just do 9? Do I do 12? What do I do? And then there's like, what is it? Sorry, I'm putting all the books back. Waterdeep Dragon Heist, that's like 1 to 5, but it's supposed to be 4 campaigns. Do I say that that's 5 games, or do I say that's 5 games times 4, which is 20? You see, there's problem 1. Or actually, that might be problem 2. Problem 1 is just actually trying to, like... No, actually, that's problem 1. We'll count that as problem 1, since I haven't actually had a problem 1 yet. Problem 2... But no, that's actually problem 1. I had a thing I wanted to finish with that, maybe. I felt like I had a thing I wanted to finish that with. And my brain decided to be like, nope, I'm gone. Alright, so that's problem 1, is the fact that I don't know how many games to actually put into each story. That's the first problem. Second problem. Do I focus on like one series of games? Or do I try to mix in a whole bunch of random games? Like, for a story, combine like a Kingdom Hearts or this or that or that. You know, just whatever. Just do I combine a set number of random games, or do I try to combine like a whole series? If I do a whole series and it's a huge series like Mario that has like over 20 games, do I use all of Mario? Do I split Mario up into chunks? You know, do I go like 2D, 3D? Do I do like Mega Man? I probably have to, and I've already said I was going to like split that one into like the different timelines, where like Battle Network and Star Force is going to be in the digital one along with ZX, although that's like way too many of them. Mega Man Legends and maybe Mega Man Zero is going to be probably for the Fallout timeline. Mega Man was going to be for the classic Mega Man was going to probably be for the Hero timeline, or like the main timeline, the Prime timeline. The digital timeline was going to have, I guess I already said that one. That was like the ZX and Battle Networks and Star Force. And Mega Man X was going to be the main show of the zombie timeline, because that's the one where you like that one. Like Mega Man X6 has a whole apocalypse storyline where everybody's dead, basically, and rebuilding is going to be such a pain and all that stuff. And then they kind of like revamp it and get rid of it for X7, X8. I have no idea what the actual plot for that series is, but I left on a cliffhanger, which is annoying. So anyway, all that is part 1. Like all that is an issue. Like, do I just use this? Do I just use some games? Do I just use this? Like, how many games do I use? How many things do I do? And then how many? Like, do I just focus on like one series? Do I just focus on so many games from that series? Do I just, because if I focus on one series, I can emulate that series, making the game feel like that series. Like if I use a bunch of random games together, this might lead to problem 3. If I go with a bunch of series at once, I have to kind of pull bits and pieces from all of them, which could work. It could be fun. But if I was like, say, This one's all about Mega Man's X. That means I have to make the gameplay feel like Mega Man X, which means that the players could have a Mega Man X like choice of what bosses they go after, what missions they go do. They could have a choice like that. I could either cut it up into actual Ace or do what Mega Man 7 does and split like the first 4 bosses and then the second 4 bosses with the middle thing, like an intro stage and a middle thing, and then the Wily Fortress. I could make a format like that. Zero has a similar format to that, where usually it's like 4 bosses and then a break and then 4 more bosses. I could do something like that to kind of prove my, like, to actually kind of tell a story. But if I focus on a whole bunch of games, then it kind of I just make it a straight story game with like none of with. If I use a bunch of them, I end up using none of them. Basically, that's one of the problems. But there could be some cool factor if I just took a whole series and tried to mimic it, more or less, like a Mario thing where I try to mimic it. Again, a lot of this is going to be on RPG Maker until I can find people that can help me do other things, either by helping me find out how to actually code stuff like Unreal Engine, or maybe even Roblox, maybe something. I don't know. Roblox is something it would be okay, but I feel like honestly I'd rather do something more with Unreal Engine. But I've been working with RPG Maker since I was like in college, more or less. I think I talked about that before. Not sure if I did. That was back in like 2008-ish. I got it. Started working. That's like around the time I got my first PC. Realized that RPG Maker was a thing. Got my hands on it and kept trying to make games with it, more or less. And now I actually own all the RPG Makers, basically all of them, from XP, VXA's 2002, whatever the ones they had, I have them. Except for like 2 and 3 that were on the PS2. I actually own PS1 one, which I tried to make stuff with, but I didn't do anything with. But yeah, but now I own all of them, so I may use assets from all of them, and that's fine because I own all of them. Anyway, the other problem I have is that the other issues I end up coming across is like what about RPGs? This is great for like stuff like platformers, beat 'em ups. There's also there's a couple other ones of like, what about this series? What about that series? A couple other series that just kind of gets hit with is like, what about race car games? What about puzzle games? What about tactics games? What about this? RPGs have like the only one I could basically be like, I could make an excuse for it, be like, well, RPGs, if we add one RPG per D&D book, like, I'm thinking this one is going with, I have a note for it, hold on. Who's getting wild ball? I think I have my notes on my phone, actually, not here. Okay, I actually don't have a note, but this is a bad example. This one's Earthbound. That one might have been Chrono Cross, but this one's Earthbound. This one's guaranteed to be Earthbound, especially since like the back of the book has stuff about like an alien race kind of thing. Like it's not really an alien race, but it's like mind flare. What is it? I think it's like mind flayers or something like that. Yeah, and there's something in it that's like, I think they're like mind flayers or something like that. But like, yeah, mind flayers. the whole Mind Flayer thing just makes me think of the problems in Earthbound, where all the people are getting transformed by aliens into weird things. Like the aliens are controlling people. Mind Flayers are kind of seeming to be doing that in that book. So I can see a connection there, and through each chapter, I could technically see a way that we could do that. And honestly, it'd be a shorthanded version of it, but in the end of the day, it would be like a full story. Because like it's only like 12 chapters, only like a handful of dungeons. It's going to be only half of the stuff that we do for that. And that's the thing. Also, that's the other problem I have is like I was trying to say like how much of the games do I use? Like with the current thing I have, I only used like Half-Life. I'm using Half-Life as a thing, but I only got like 20 levels. And you saw how long in the previous video. You saw how long one level was. They all might not be that long. Some might be shorter than that, but that was one level. I have like no, I not even. I have like 10 of those. I have less. I have like 30 rooms, possibly max. I have 10 of those available right now. But I also have room for like 30 more, or like 30ish more levels or something like. I don't know. I have like if I were to continue going through breakdown and stuff like that, I would have a whole bunch more levels. But like I said, I only got to chapter 2. And honestly, there's a point where I could be like, well, this could be a finished story, a finished campaign, depending on what campaign this is. Or this is just the beginning of a campaign, and there's so much more left to do. And I honestly don't know which way I want to go. I could even change the entire character and leave it be like the sequel of the... Make it be a sequel of the mining game. I've thought about that. Because of Hybrid Heaven, it'd be really good to sequelize it for the wrestler character, Jake, I think. From that story. And have him be like punching and slamming things down, and then have a DV story that's like much later or something like that. But I don't know. That is something I honestly do not know what I want to do with. That is the problem. That is like at least 4 of my major problems. I think I basically said them. This: what games do I use? How many games do I use? What genre of games do I use? How much of the games do I use? And sorry, I guess that's just 4. I'm like that guy from Hercules that always says, "I got 2 words for you: charge." You know, that whole thing. I got 1 word for you: do your best. That's not me making an attempt to do an impression. That is just me doing crazy voice because it's funny. Yeah, it's the same logic as that. Anyway, so basically what I need to do is have a lot of stuff, honestly. I need to do a lot of stuff. I need to have a lot of stuff. There's just so much I gotta do. But so that's like part of the madness the method to my madness. So right now, what I have figured out is that I'm thinking along the lines of this, and sometimes this may change depending on the game or story. Is that we have 1 RPG per campaign. This could be either something super long like Earthbound or a Persona game, to something short like Dragon Quest 1. That's the best example. That game takes like a couple hours to beat. Max, if you know what you're doing. So that's the thing. It's like it can range from anywhere from A to B. This also means that I can range my story from anywhere from A to B in length. Also, I could make the game longer than the thing. Because I found out there's an RPG for like the Atari 2600 that could work. I spent all of yesterday after, like, okay, so again, this video, I had to take a couple day break to get my phone fixed. And by fixed, I mean I had to upload the previous two videos, schedule them. So that's why they're coming out directly on time. And then, follow that up with a, with like this. So I had to do that. I had to trash those videos so I have room on my phone. And I had to delete them off trash so I could actually make this damn video. So, what I learned from that is that, or from since then, I spent all of yesterday going through this one playlist of games that, like, this dude going through an RPG quest. And I just scrolled through and skimmed through all the videos to find out which games were technically turn-based RPGs. And I use the terms turn-based RPG in quotes because I say RPGs, but Kingdom Hearts is technically an RPG. We're not using that. I could use that as an action game or a platform. I could use that more in the action game platformer part of the thing where I use that for, like, level design and figuring out stuff. Because I could have levels that have stuff going on. Later in that project that I have partway done, there's a spike level, which you might want to use it. There's, like, spikes that come up at intervals. So I could have, like, obstacles. And you already see that in the one level I had, like, you had dodge these lights. So I could have, like, solid snake style stealth. I could have, well, not really. I can't do, like, people stealth, but I could have, like, sort of stealth. Where it's like, if you get caught by somebody, or if you get caught by a spotlight, then you get shot, you know. I can do stuff like that, where it's like just like little movement puzzles, little that I get little block puzzles. We already see I have block puzzles. I actually have an advanced version of that where you actually have to put a block on something, but to do that I have to do a whole bunch of stuff. I could do all types of little puzzles and little gimmicks, so I could have like full on. I could use full on level design to try to figure this out, more or less. I could do stuff like that using the games and whatever little bit of research I'm using. So we can put the action games aside for stuff like that, where like treasure should be located, stuff like that. Since some RPGs are very skippy on treasures, or they barely give you anything, or whatever. I'm going to have to probably rework that little game because I'm going to have to do like a whole, what's it called? I'm going to probably rework that game because I'm going to have to at least have, like, I don't know. I'm going to try to make it more, I might try to make it more survival horror. Possibly. That's one idea. Other than that, I got to try to figure some stuff out. I got to figure out what campaign it goes with because, again, I made that without a campaign. I made the mining game without a campaign, but I kind of want to cycle back into using that, like say, hey, this was this campaign, this was this game, this RPG, etc. There's also games like so I wanted to find specifically turn-based games, specifically stuff like Final Fantasy, Dragon Quest, where maybe you make one character, you make your main character. Maybe you could possibly make your whole party, but like it's very set, very limited. You know, Dragon Quest 3 is an example where you technically make your whole party, but like just for the most part, the idea would be one RPG that's turn-based, or at least has elements of turn-based, which are what I've wrote down. I found like 86 games using that playlist that I didn't have. So I have like 226 games I've dubbed that are technically in this realm of stuff, where it's either turn-based or you get like separated into like a little battle zone and you do something. So it's like if you're walking on a map and then suddenly it transitions to a different type of gameplay, then that would count. I also found some weird games that technically this counts for, but yeah, that would technically count along those lines. And technically, the things I found were like these are games that are mostly PS2 and younger, which was a huge blind spot for me. But I still have a whole bunch of like, there's even a bigger blind spot if there's any turn-based games recently outside of like WrestleQuest or something like that, which I haven't played but I've seen. But the point I'm trying to make is that we have those, and we have like there's like 200 of those. If I was crazy, if I could be crazy enough, I could try to make a game every month, and it'd take like 20 years to get all those games, or at least a little over 20 years to get all those games. 21, 22 years to get all those. Might be crazy enough for that. But I actually have to I have to figure out the system for it, which is why I'm saying all this and probably asking for help in a general sense. If you want to leave a comment asking what my entire point of this set of videos are, you can. I won't blame you. I ramble and rant so much, I don't even know what I've said or what I haven't said yet. It's a problem. Like I said, I don't know if I said it in this video, but I might have something, but it's undiagnosed. And I don't have a car to go get it diagnosed right now. I really don't really think my parents want to try to take me to go see if I have it. My parents are the kind of type that says, no, that's stupid. Why would you have that? Anyway, long story short, what I got is one turn-based RPG. Like I said, turn-based being described as you either go into like literal turn-based combat where this person goes, this person goes. And like usually warped into a different reality. Sometimes it can be the same thing. Chrono Trigger counts, but you don't really get warped into a different thing. But the gameplay entirely changes. You're not moving around freely anymore. And you have that. So basically games that are immediately out, like I said, Kingdom Hearts, where you can swing your Keyblade at any time, and regardless if there's enemies on the screen or not. So when the game shifts from combat mode to not combat mode, there's not really much of a difference. There's that one section in Recoded that's kind of a little turn-based RPG thing that kind of mimic turn-based RPGs, but that's a section of a single game. That's not a full game. That's a mini game, more or less, in that game. The game's really good. I hate the fact that the PS3, like the 1.5 and 2.5s, don't have that in the 300-something days, but oh well. I like those games a lot, but they just have cutscenes that makes that one really boring. I think I said that in my update video, so I'm not going to go much more detail than that. Anyway, what I'm trying to get at is that turn-based game is either that or where you get transformed into some type of different thing where the gameplay style has changed. Parasite Eve technically does that, at least the first one. The second one is iffy, and I'm not sure if I should count that, because you do go into, like, the screen flashes, you do go into a different gameplay mode for kind of a second where you can shoot and cast magic, and then it pops out and you get experience points. That technically could count, and I might actually count that. After, like, remembering the part where, like, after the battle, you kind of put your stuff up and it tallies up your experience points and gives you items, technically that counts way more than I think it did. So yeah, 1,000%, that one probably counts. Third Birthday does not count. It's not even an RPG at all. It's just a shooter game. Another elephant in the room, though. Yeah, they have to have those. Before I say the elephant, I want to make sure I got the definition of what I think is turn-based. So, either literally, you take your turn, they take their turn, or if it's a different style of game that's not turn-based, you at least have to be in some type of different mode. Like Parasite Eve or Parasite Eve 2, Where Parasite Eve 2 is basically just Resident Evil, but they stop you and give you experience points, and also you can't pull out your gun whenever, or I think you can pull out your gun, but you really don't start firing. You really can't fire until you until the screen flashes and you're actually in battle mode. So there is a distinct between battle mode and not battle mode. It also allows Hybrid Heaven to technically fit in that aspect of RPG. And that was all about wrestling moves, which is why I almost want to use this character that I actually gave a wrestling backstory to. That's not one of my main characters, by the way. That game was full of ideas I had beforehand. But the other game type, this little elephant in the room, are games like old D&D games. I'm talking stuff like Baldur's Gate, Champions of Kryn, which, if you've never heard of that, it's fine. We'll probably play it at some point later. And stuff like that, where you literally have the ability to make your entire party, and they go on this adventure that is set in stone, but mostly open, question mark. Some games are not so open, but some of them are, some of them aren't. Depends on the quest, the campaign. And that's kind of where I'm like, I might use those games as campaigns. This also could work with games like like Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, and Baldur's Gate games, like I said, like Baldur's Gate 3 would be a good example of get me and that. Like, I almost want to say this also would work for games like Fallout or Elder Scrolls. Those ones are a little iffy, because where most of those games are first-person action games with RPG elements. And honestly, I could mimic that. Like, I'm going through a whole Fallout universe. I could just mimic that using the freaking campaign. I could just mimic having Fallout-like stuff since it's already in there. But this brings in some questions there. This might be my fifth problem. I might find that fifth problem, and this might be it. Like, what counts thereof? Champions of Kryn is very, very open. Same with, like, Pull of Radiance, where you can get quests, but you can get quests in different order. You can go do certain things. There is a precise order that you should be doing things, but you don't have to do that. You could just go and do kind of what you want. You can explore the city. You can run around. There's like things to do. So, like, and in Champions of Kryn, you have like a whole map that's like a 5x5, it's like probably like a 10x10 grid that you like take a step on, and that like goes into either a battle or something, and then like there could be dungeons, there could be individual battles there could be whatever. There's all types of stuff. Do I count I honestly don't know if I should count that as a typical RPG, like a turn-based, because it's a turn-based. Like, the combat is it's a little bit tactical. Tactical RPGs are also off the menu, even though they are very turn-based. But I could make a strategy RPG if I want to, using RPG Maker. There's a patch that came out that was like, hey, you could use this. It's like even like officially on Steam and everything. You could like use this little thing and you could make strategy games with it. So I mean, I could just bundle up a bunch of strategy games together and use those for that instead of using the plot of a single strategy RPG to drive the whole everything forward. Because there's like a bajillion Fire Emblems. So that would like triple the number I already got of like, or at least double the number I already got of RPGs, or at least like add another like 100 or 150 right there by adding everything. But I can also just make RPGs that are very similar and say that that's very similar to this franchise of game Like I can have multiple strategy RPGs based off of this one's about Fire Emblem. This one's about Shining Force. This one's about Final Fantasy Tactics. This one's about Devil Survivor. I think it's what it's called. The one where the one where you actually have like the little tactical maps for the DS and 3DS. Those ones are pretty fun. I beat the first one. Never got past day 8 on this. Since I had the 3DS version, but I never got past day 8. But that's beside the point. We're trying to finish this within the next 20 minutes. I promise. This will be the last big long video like this. Although I might ramble about a different time. Technically, the next one where I talk about all the games I beat, that's gonna be a thing. I gotta finish that list, and technically, if people want that list, I will get that list to you. But what I want, like the general idea is one RPG and maybe one series of games. Combine that together to make something. That's kind of where I've gotten to right now. Along with one campaign, the RPGs that are like their own thing, I might just turn those into campaigns. So those are campaigns that you could watch me or Lynn go through when we have the chance. So like we could actually just straight up like go through those campaigns as a campaign. And such. So that's thoughts. But then I'd have to find an RPG that. But the thing is, if I use those for a campaign, I could use those as campaign plus RPG wrapped into one, or I could also try to find another RPG to kind of narrow down what actually happens. Ideas. This is where, if you understand the rambling rambles that I'm rambling about rambling, then maybe you can help. Call out to try to see if somebody can figure out how to scrunch all this knowledge that I've put into this ball and help from this and the previous video. Find ways to help. That's why I say like the Breath of Fire stuff. Those would be like one campaign in those timelines. Now, a smaller issue I have is with certain RPGs like Breath of Fire 3. Breath of Fire 3 is the best example of what a problem I kind of can run into with some RPGs. If there are time gaps or if there are anything like that, what do I do? Breath of Fire 3 has a time gap right in the middle of the game where you go from young to adult. Do I just make a game? When I use Breath of Fire 3, do I use it for the adult section? Do I use it for that? The idea right now is that, I think I explained this, but the 10 books that are to my side here, I was going to combine those into one thing and use like 4 chapters out of the books at a time, because there happens to be like 80 chapters. I was going to have this go up to level 20. Oh, I guess I gotta do skills, which should have to be a really fast thing, but I will do that like right after this. But yeah. And then like, so they're gonna do like 4 chapters out of the books per thing and gain a level. And then each game, since there's 10 books, I was gonna do each game with 2 chapters worth. So like, so 2 levels worth. So like 8 of the chapters out of these books in total. And I was just gonna kind of randomize and find which fit each different situation. And also with that, have it to where like each RPG was using like 1/20th of that stuff. Like with that one in particular, I was going to use a lot of the RPGs I actually knew, which included stuff like Breath of Fire 3, Paper Mario Thousand Year Door, Paper Mario the Original, Earthbound, Mother 1, Sonic and the Dark Brotherhood, which would be for Marty, who is supposed to be like a speedster character, Mario RPG, Final Fantasy 15, because that one kind of works with Tata, who crash lands, it's kind of away from her kingdom and can't go back until the end. So instead of being like literally 5 miles away from the kingdom, it's more like a whole planet away. Alright, so Paper Mario, Chrono Trigger, Chrono Cross. Those are the ones. Chrono Cross is the only one out of that list that I don't know and I probably need to play. If I started playing, I might play some of these still on my own time since I've already started some of these, but some of these ones I gotta start over or whatever because of limitations, yeah. The last thing I want to talk about is skills. I'm going to try to make this quick. Skills have been a big issue that I've been trying to have with a long time. I think I may have brought this up at the previous one because I did talk about stats, but the skills have been like a big issue I've had. One issue is that do I just give them like what they would learn from D&D or whatever tabletop game we're going through? Or do I go with something where, because you could have 16 skills on screen at once and be able to like see all of those and know that you have all those options. If you have more than that, it's kind of harder to see. If you have less than that, it kind of leaves a little bit of a blank on the screen. So it's like, ideally, maybe I want to give each character 16 skills or 32 skills, splitting it up between like normal attacks and magic spells. You know, special skills and magic spells. I can also have the skill stat do special skills and magic do that, but I still have to find out a use for intelligence. Which again could be for talking abilities. Or stuff like tail wag, like the equivalent. I've had ideas of basically just like looking at Pokemon and be like, alright, I choose this Pokemon. I want to take all these attacks and tweak them and make them my own. Instead of like 40 power for tackle, that means it's times 1 attack damage. And like, so, or 50 power for tackle, that's now times 1 attack damage. That's like times 1 damage. So that means that like 80 power would be like, 60%, like 160% damage. 90 power would be 180. 110 power would be 220% damage, etc., etc. But I could do that, and then have TMs and stuff like that be like stuff they learn on the side. I've also had the idea of like Persona style, where like instead of the player actually learning any skills that they get to keep permanently, they get an equipment piece that they equip, and that gives them like 6 to 8 skills, or 4 to 8 skills, 4, 6, or 8 skills, whatever fits the best. And these skills allow them to do anything from physical attack moves to gun attack moves to magic attacks. And depending on what it is, and I was going to call these power sources and have it be like, for DV, it could be his dragon DNA. For some character, like if DV's more digitally inclined in one thing, it could be his, like any digital avatar. For the one that's going to be based around like nostalgia stuff, the DV Fighting Force is probably going to be based around use a lot of the Power Ranger stats from the nostalgia stuff over there, like Power Rangers, G.I. Joe. Jen would have G.I. Joe stuff, but DV would have Power Ranger stuff because there's a whole grid and stuff, and the grid can basically be the digital world, you know. There's connections I can make with all this stuff to kind of combine it all, like using familiar stuff so people can understand what I'm talking about, while also still having something pretty unique, pretty off the walls. Basically mixing a whole bunch of stuff into a blender until something good comes out. And if it's bad, take what's bad and swap it in with something that makes more sense. With a lot of RPGs that I've seen yesterday, this is going to have to be a thing I do. It's like replace some of the bad with something better. But yeah, there's a whole bunch of stuff like that. There's a whole bunch of stuff. But yeah, the power sword. But like with that, it's like digital avatars. Like you have your phone avatar and you use that, and you use the power of the grid or whatever, the power of the digital world to like give yourself like a suit similar to that. It doesn't have to be a Power Ranger suit. It could be something more like a knight or a Mega Man like character or whatever. Like some type of digital, whatever your digital avatar was. I should have 10 minutes left on this. I gotta be quick. And have that be what your skill sets are. I've also had the idea, and this one could be fun, basing it off of the RPG I'm using. Like I said, everything has one turn-based RPG it's using. So if I take the idea I have and basically like, what if I just use the RPG I'm going to use? Like, Hybrid Heaven is like a really weird one for me because like the lab game is weird because I have two routes I can go with it. Route A, keep it short, but I have to fix everything to make it more go into a direction of a like beat 'em up. Maybe if I'm just the Half-Life levels are there, you can still have your melee weapons and guns, but everything else has to be like power slams and like rapid punches. You know, all the skills. I also have to figure out how to learn those because I think you just like randomly get those from like the big battles. Like any of the big battles you do, you just randomly get them. I think it might be based off what skills you used or what you get, but you just like randomly get skills after a fight. And honestly, I don't remember how. I don't know exactly how it works. I have to find a way to make that make sense into something that's like a lot more easier to work with and also easier to play with. So it's not so confusing for other people. Possibly. There's Shadow Hearts where like half your skills are on little star charts, and you equip those. But you slowly upgrade the star chart and stuff like that. I can't do that, but that'd be a good example for using a power source to gain some of your abilities, and then you get the rest to gain like half your abilities, and the other half of your abilities you'd be getting from, say, just progressing through the story. Like you'd have like your main set of character abilities you get from the story, and then you'd have these like interchangeable, swap outable things for like your spells and other physical moves and buffs. That's also an idea. With the lab game, the other route I can go. Forgot I was trying to say it with the lab game. So there's like the Punchy Punch Hybrid Heaven style, or Breath of Fire Dragon Quarters. So this is about Deviant, that's his main thing. With that, I could have a party of 4, actually keeping the 4th party member in there, and at least for a while. And as the party of 4 leaves, I could have, and I could have it to where it still uses the same system, but maybe they have like leveled up moves. Like you have your level 1 move, and then you have like a level 2, level 3 move that does like 2 times and 3 times. And then like if I use Persona, so I like those 2 routes for the lab game. Super short, but swap things with punchy stuff and physical moves, or make it longer and use Breath of Fire Dragon Quarters. So I like 2 RPGs I could use for that, and both are okay. But I've already been using part of Hybrid Heaven's actual level design, so so I really am leaning more toward that. But I have to change things all over again. Either way, the point I'm going to make about that is, yeah, if I did like Persona style, I could do exactly what I was talking about with the power source system. If I do Earthbound level up system, that's also an option. I'd have a level up system, but at the same time, if I do a level up system with a story that's like episodically broke up, like at the end of story 1, there's going to be a story 2. There's going to be sequels. Do I just have them not have powerful attacks? Or do they get like level 3, like 4 or 5 time multiplier attacks, and they get to like, and they just have to like re-get them again later. Like they already have access to like all these really powerful moves. They just gotta get them again later, or maybe they're completely different in the next game. You know, stuff like that. Like if again, Earthbound, all like, and then Paper Mario is bad system where you just equip skills. Again, that's power. So that'd be the power source system because I can't have it to where you can equip individual badges. Technically, that's kind of what the card game was, but at the same time, I can't really do that in more recent systems. Anyway, that's all basically the long and short of it, and why I'm so confused with all of it. Let me know what you think. I'm going to end this here because I don't want to have to make a part 3. I don't want to keep finding excuses to drag out part 3 to be almost as long as this. So, I'm done rambling about this. So the next video, I do this like this, will be that. Maybe if somebody actually gives me some ideas of what I should play, I could actually get started into the whole streaming thing. But regardless, the next video I do that's going to be like this, unless I do something else, should be every game I have ever beaten in a video. Like just listing off every game I have ever beaten. With that one, technically that one might not be a face cam. I might just literally have the list. So I can actually have like a counter going. Well, I really wouldn't need the counter, but like just games I've beaten. Technically, if I do it like this, that way I can hide the list, but have the list over here. It's probably going to be a huge number because I have actually beaten a lot of games over the years. As I've always said, I haven't beaten every game I own, but I believe I've beaten more games than I own, and this is becoming more and more realistic as I've been selling my games lately. But I believe that to be true, and we'll have to find out next time on this thing that I'm doing, I guess. I don't know. If you want to support the channel or anything, I don't know if the links will be in the description. I can check to see if the links have been in the description. I guess that's something I could look into. No. With these ones, since the way I'm uploading them, oh hey. Also hey. Somebody didn't like it. Why? But regardless, probably could I posted in that one place and somebody probably got rude. Anyways, if you want to support me, most of my links are either in other videos or whatever to actually support me. I got all types of stuff. You want to actually see these ideas come to life. Basically, you've seen all the madness I have. If you want to see this madness come to life, you can support me, more or less, through PayPal or through buying the stuff I already have so far. You can see some of the ideas I have, or by like Ko-Fi. I have a Ko-Fi link that's usually on my streams. And that's what you like. This should be in my actual streams themselves, etc. Anyway, thank you all for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day. I want to actually end this before the video just cuts me off. Bye-bye.